So today on the Scenic Route podcast, we have Leanne. I'm always doing this fucking singing thing. I have no idea why. Someone please slap me. But so today, Leanne told me like, oh, she applied to be on the Scenic Route podcast because she's like, well, it's called the Scenic Route. I gotta fucking have to. So Leanne, what does Scenic Route mean to how you approach life and business?
That's the question.
Aww.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. So great to chat with you. Yeah, I mean, people are starting to say to me things like, oh, I should rest. Like, what would Leanne do or something? And I'm like, okay, so people are starting to pick up on that. I'm like, let's just chill. And I have to like preface this by saying like, I grew up as like a good student, good girl, like doing the right things. And so this
Didn't
is
we
like,
all?
so
I
like,
see.
I'm not
That's like,
naturally, I'm not naturally like this, but, yeah, just something that I feel like I've been doing, especially in my business, since I started it, is taking things slow and letting them be enjoyable and easy now instead of hustling and growing and scaling and then being like, oh no, I'm too busy. Let me like pull it back. And people have noticed that too. They're like, oh, like you're really, or like, they're like, I didn't know you were so busy because you're not available for a call this week. And I'm like, it's not that I'm busy. It's that I don't take last minute stuff like that. I want the space.
Boundaries, people. Listen,
yeah.
to
You're
Leanne.
like, you're so
Yes.
busy. I'm like, no, I'm not busy. I don't want to be busy. There's memes like that are like, I didn't say, like, I don't know how the meme goes, like, it's not, I blocked off the free time, like to do nothing, not to be available to you.
Yeah, right. And it's so interesting. Like, a lot of us start their entrepreneurial journey to like have more freedom. And then I don't know, 6, 12, 18 months down the road, you're realizing like I fucking have less freedom than I had when I was in corporate. So, whoa, what happened?
Yeah.
So I'm curious. You said like you weren't born this way, which is really interesting because like most of my clients weren't. Most people here in the Scenic Group podcast weren't. Most of them were like good, as you said, good girls, high achievers. Like, so what was there like a pivotal moment or like something profound that kind of like inspired you to shift your focus?
I think as far as being like the good girl thing, I grew up going to church, a Baptist church, and that's not something I believe in anymore. And that I was like doing everything. I was reading my Bible. I was teaching the kids. I was leading the choir. I was doing so many things. I was in it. I was very like embedded.
Sounds like it.
And that was my community. Like it was cool. And then I remember like going to this like leadership conference or something. And I was like looking at the books and I was just like present and I was like, And then like someone from my church walked up to me and was like, Leanne, we're all waiting for you. Where are you? Like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I can be doing all the right things and I'm still going to get in trouble, quote unquote, like for not doing the right thing. And I think that is like started to set me on the path of like, oh, I'm not going to make everyone happy. So I need to make myself happy.
Yeah, this is like, I mean, you look quite young, so I mean, kudos for realizing that at a younger age, because it takes a lot of people a long time to realize that. And this makes me sound like I'm 50, but I mean, it's really the case though, right? Like, I mean, I tried for so long. I mean, I can so relate. I tried for so long to make like specifically my mom happy until realizing, well, it's never good enough.
Yeah.
So I rather not deal with all the crazy and have like a peaceful, serene life. And I'd be like, be the damn child anyway. So, hey, I mean, if I be the cursed child, then I rather have my peace than like not just doing all the things where I'm like, no, I don't actually want to do that. Yeah. So tell me more like how, like, for most of us, when we say we're on a scenic route, and we're taking things slow, that usually requires quite a deep shift, from looking away from let's say traditional goals and traditional values or focus points, um in both kind of like how you approach business and how you approach life in general, right? Especially, I think, when it comes to money, right? Like, not saying the scenic route is a poor, you got to be poor in a scenic route. Absolutely fucking not. I want you to have all the money you need for to keep whatever lifestyle you desire. But it's still kind of like, how do you define success now in your business or in your personal life when you don't prioritize money as the main objective?
Yeah. Yeah. I think to talk about this, like I'm reflecting on like my journey as a business owner, and it hasn't been super long. I started my business in 2020, like in the pandemic and all of that. And so getting into this online business world and getting so much like advice and you're making like a face, but like,
Yeah.
some of it helpful and some of it not. And like going down this journey, and then there's just, I feel like I got bored of certain things early on. The like, here, plan your content for the next year. I'm like, why would I be planning what I'm going to do 12 months from now? Like, that's wild to me. But anyways, but this journey of like learning all the things and all of that, and then realizing that like being immersed in this productivity culture. And eventually I was like, I don't want to do things just to do things. And I like to be organized and all of that. Of course, like I said, I'm a good girl or whatever, but I mean, ex-good girl or whatever. So it's become over the years easier for me to spot the things like, or the tactics that are geared towards productivity for productivity's sake. And this all has to do with living in capitalism and how everyone's life is, from a child, geared towards, like make sure that they're in a good preschool so they can learn and keep up, and so they can get to a good college, and so they can get a good job, and so they can make money and function in the system
to pay
that
off
we
their
live
debt
in.
for being in for going to a good college, at least if you're in the States.
Yeah. And all of this. And I'm like, wow, everyone's just so obsessed, or like their work is their whole personality or their whole life. And I feel like I was never like that. Even before I started my business, I was a freelancer in live event production, and I would show up to work and people would be talking about the other gigs that they are working on. And I was so bored by that. I was like, what do you like to do outside of work? And of course I was, it just all comes like goes around in circles for me a little bit, because I'm like, yeah, well, I'm here to make money, but also my life isn't my whole job, but I'm here because of the system and because we have to. So let me get myself back on track here.
Yeah. I mean, this is super interesting, right? Because there was a shift when what we do became so ingrained of that it became like who we are. And it's just like, no, like you're still way more than that could ever fit into your LinkedIn bio, right? It's like, it's insane. But obviously, yeah, I mean, byproduct of capitalism for sure. Like, if you were said kind of like, okay, you have to kind of like, you don't prioritize money. Like, can you share with us like an example of how this, like, actively decentering money has positively impacted like how you do business, or like how you approach business?
Yeah. So following this narrative of like getting immersed in productivity culture and stuff. And then I feel like I wanted to ask you also, Jennifer, if you edit this. I meant to ask you because I'm like, oh, I'm going to lose my train of thought.
I do I do minimal editing, but
Yeah.
I can edit certain things that,
Sorry
yes,
to say that during the recording.
that's fine. That's fine. That's how we roll. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
so
So
can you share like specific examples like that you do
yeah.
maybe when it comes to like how you actually set
Yeah.
goals or how you do like you gotta as long I mean you yes we're not focusing on money, but still
Yeah.
we have a certain, and that varies from person to person, but everyone has a certain need for financial stability, right? And how what kind of like like can you like share
Yeah.
practical insights or examples that you're
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah. So some of the things that I'm doing, well, the main thing comes down to like prioritizing and honoring my body first.
Mm.
And I think that especially coming from a Baptist background, there's like this belief that like the body is bad and should be suppressed and brought into submission and mind over matter and all of that.
Oh, that
So
sounds like a
this,
lovely church.
yeah. um, and so on the flip side, I'm like, no, like I want to prioritize my body first. So some of the things that I do are, one of my goals or values for being a business owner is to never set an alarm.
Yeah,
I also don't have kids, side note.
yeah,
So
exactly. I was like, yeah, we're not doing the alarm thing. We have a kid,
yeah,
like a biological alarm clock. It's fine.
yeah, yeah. So just caveat, that's where I'm coming from. But
Mm-hmm.
not to set an alarm, but to, because why besides kids, why do we have an alarm set up? Because we have to get somewhere by a certain time to
Yeah,
be the most productive, give them our best hours and our best energy and all of that. And I think as a business owner, I can choose where to put my best energy. And also my best energy is not necessarily 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or whatever. So
yeah,
first thing is not waking up early, not waking, it's the allowing myself to sleep as much as I need to.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And letting that be okay
And
and
if you're
good.
awake at 6 o'clock in the morning and feeling ready, then you can jump in, like
Yeah,
if you want. Yeah.
exactly. And that's the thing. And it all comes back to like, I know that not everyone's like me, but for me, it all comes back to choosing what we want and
Mm,
taking a moment to get present with what we actually want instead of what people have
mm.
told us we should want or should be doing. Today I woke up at like 7. Yesterday I woke up at like noon. So every day is different.
Yeah, I'm not
And
jealous. Like, no, not at all. No.
sorry.
That's fine. It's fine.
um,
I choose the life of raising a
yeah,
kid and a
yeah,
toddler, so it's fine. It will
of
pass.
course. And it's a
This
season. We
too
have
shall
seasons.
pass.
We have seasons and we are choosing. So maybe day to day, there's not a big choice, but you've chosen this season.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is important. And also, if someone wants to like wake up early and get their like use their best energy to get work done, choosing
Yeah.
that. Because here's the other part of this. What happens is there's like, I see this in like stages, sort of. There's a stage of like hustle. It's like work all the time, work a million hours a
Yeah.
week. And then you're like, oh, wait, I don't want to do that. So you scale back and you're like, I'm only
Or you're
working.
burning out and you're realizing you're
Sometimes you
kind of like
choose and sometimes
forced
you don't.
to. Yeah.
But you might scale back and be like, okay, I'm going to work only 9 to 5 every day because that's my working hours. And then when you're in that mindset, we often think like, don't work on the weekends and don't work at night. And you see someone send an email at 10 p.m. and you're like, oh my God, they can't believe they're working at night. And then the phase after that is realizing that time is made up and this 9 to 5 structure, although just side note, of course, that came from unions and we appreciate that. The unions bringing in these like guidelines and stuff and not letting people get overworked.
Yes.
At the same time, it's still part of capitalism that's like productivity is the thing that we're striving for to, do more and more and more. So it's like, oh, okay. So the 9 to 5 structure and fitting myself in that is still part of capitalism. And so to be anti-capitalist is to, in this aspect, is to be choosing when I want to work, when it works for me and not what the clock says and not what someone else says. So I could be working on the weekend or at night. I could be sleeping until noon and working, until midnight or something, if that's what I want, because I'm doing what's aligned for me. And there are times that we're doing things that we don't really want to do, but we're making, maybe waking up early every day is not super what you want to do, but it's something that we're agreeing to because of the season we're in and what we're working towards. But just for me, I also feel like I'm like unemployable now because I just can't have somebody telling me you need to be at this place at this
But
time every day.
I think that's the
just
case with
because.
most entrepreneurs, to be honest. Like there's a point of no return. Like you'll become just so fucking unemployable. Like you're like, I don't know. You're like, no, not gonna deal with this shit. No, sorry, out. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
You want me to do what? I am not available.
Yeah, if I'm thinking back now to my corporate days and just like the highlights of it, I'm like, nah, no, no, no.
Yeah, I
Just
can't hang
hard,
anymore.
no, like
Because of capitalism and money, I do work in live events sometimes. Like I set up for concerts and things like that. And I can't be on my feet that long anymore. And I also like I've cut back on this a long time ago, but I don't like working at night because you have to come back in after the concert's over and take it all down. And like for years, I've been like, that is my bedtime. I'm not available. Like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, right. And it's just so important with the intention behind it, right? Like it's just a different, if you have the intention of getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning because you know that's your most productive hour, or I don't know, you want to do an ice bath, which I'm like, how could anyone ever? But I mean, if this is help supporting you in feeling better and bringing you back into alignment, then do that, right? Instead of, but really pause and reflect and ask yourself, well, why am I doing certain things? Am I taking this to be like the silver bullet? Like I always ask, sometimes I have clients where they come with like, oh, I don't know, I've seen at one point or another, we're always coming talking about like online like education and should I do another program or course or whatever, from doing a PhD down to like a $44 online course. And it's always kind of like, well, why do you want to do it? Right? Do you want to do it because you have you're attaching hope that this thing will save you? Or are you doing it because I know it sounds fun, you're curious, you're whatever, and just really think about that, why you're doing certain things or why you're signing up, regardless if it's a small investment or a big investment. So yeah, I can totally relate. So let's gonna circle back again. You said you started your business in 2020. So you have a couple of years now. I mean, on in your backpack, all the COVID years, which were anyway, let's not get into that. But hey, like, what advice would you give someone who's also like thinking about starting their own business or an early stage entrepreneurship and who want to like adopt a similar approach to doing like a more kinder approach to business, but kind of like fear the financial cutback or instability of it?
Yeah. I think, at least in relation to what we've just talked about in regards to how I spend my time and energy, I had to have some trust in myself. Part of this is building trust. When I listen to my body and I hear what it's asking for and I give that to myself, that is building trust. And then the next part of this is trusting that the energy and inspiration will come. And so noticing when that does happen. I do this like with stuff around the house that I like pile up the dishes all day and I feel bad about it. And then at the end of the day, in like 10 minutes, I just go through everything and put it all in the dishwasher or whatever. And I'm like, I knew when it was time and I did it all at once. Like it happened. It happened when it was ready.
And it would have happened and in that way, it happens faster than if you would force yourself, because that's how you can kind of like bend the perception of time as well. So I do this all the time with
Yeah.
like small things from dishes to big things like, I don't know, like decorating an entire room or something, right?
Yeah.
It's just sometimes there's always a time
Yeah.
and you
And it's
can't
like
really
the
force it.
idea of like procrastination, which I use that word like without judgment of it being right or wrong, but knowing that it's happening for a reason. So I would encourage people to get in touch with how you feel when you sit down to do your work or whatever,
Hmm.
whatever you're sitting down to do, and noticing if you're feeling resistant to it. And sometimes I'm sitting down to design something and I'm like, oh, I have no idea what to do. I don't want to do this. And I'm like, okay. I'm not in the right creative space to do this. So I'm not going to make myself do it. I'm going to, and some of that takes some work to find out when is your best energy and how do you give yourself the best chance? Because sometimes we are avoiding things that again, procrastination is happening for a reason. So
Yeah.
sometimes we're avoiding things that we're not ready to do. But we are also like, I think I don't know what to call it, like our wisest leader or whatever. We know what's right for us. So we
Yes.
know when it's like, okay, I keep avoiding this. I'm ready to stop avoiding it. I'm going to make an appointment with myself. So this is something that I've tried that I would suggest people like make an appointment with myself that at this time I'm sitting down to work on that thing. And because I've built up self-trust by when my body's asking for something, I pretty much always give it to my body, to myself. So I'm going to sit down and do this thing. And I know that if it's not coming, I can change my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the self-trust. It's like, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
this with like a kid. And again, I'm not a parent, but it's like, you're not forcing them to try things. And so they
Yeah.
know that they have the option. And then when you give them the option to try something and they know that they can change their mind,
Yeah.
they're a little more likely to give it a shot. And then they know that they can change their
Yeah.
mind. So
They
make an
will
appointment.
100% not give it a shot if you tell them they have to try it.
Yeah.
They're like,
And we
stick
are the
it.
same.
Yeah, no, of course. Like, I mean, why would we? I mean,
Yeah.
those with rebel brains anyway. We're like, no.
Yeah.
But and again, maybe I think will be also super useful for anyone thinking about figuring out how to do this online business thing. I remember like back in the days when I started, I think it was 2017. There were so many things. There's still so many things you could do, should do, must do at all costs. And you said before, right? Like at the beginning, well, you really got to focus on what is like, we're not focusing on productivity for productivity's sake. But so, okay, for saying that, then we kind of have to figure out what is really moving the needle in our business and what doesn't. And
Yeah.
so that to cut out mercilessly. So how did you approach this when you started that? How did you test, experiment, find out what is actually moving the needle for your business? What kind, like what marketing activity or what platform or all the things?
Mm-hmm. A more vivid idea of this is when I was freelancing in live events, because I would try everything. I think I did this in my business too. I would try everything and say yes to things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would gauge if it was working for me or not. So like, you're sure I'll work for this new company, try it. And it's like, oh, I don't like that company. I'm not going to work for them again. And I think in my business too, it's like, okay, people want to have meetings with me and people said I should do this and this and that. And I try that. And then it's like, oh, I don't like how I felt that day when I had all of these meetings and they were like good things like coffee chats to connect with people, like networking stuff that is an important part of my business. But I didn't like how that felt that day. And so I'm not going to do it again. So I think it's just like, you have to try things and be open, open to whatever comes of it, and then gauge if like it's working for you. Actually go back and assess instead of just doing the same thing again and again because someone told you you're supposed to be doing that. Like I see people who like their schedulers are like open all day, every day. And I only let people schedule with me 2 days a week. Like that's what I'm like, I already know that doesn't work for me. And even if that's what other people are doing or other people say you should do, or they have this mindset of like, well, what if they can't meet those days? What are they going to do? Like, they're going to ask you, hey, I can't meet those days.
They're going to let you know that they have a problem and maybe you can fix it, or you're willing to be like, yes, okay, let's do another day. Or you're like, nope, sorry, not going to happen.
I was trying
Like,
to connect with somebody who lives in Australia, and I'm just outside of Boston in the United States, and we were like, oh, this won't work. We were like,
yeah,
it was so nice to try to meet you, but this isn't going to work. And we just decided not to talk because both of us were, unwilling to
yeah.
like be up in the middle of the night or whatever.
Yeah. I always feel bad when I have like Australian guests on the podcast because they're usually like up at like 4 o'clock in the morning or something. And I'm like, ooh, so sorry. But I know like I love to record though these conversations in the evening just because I don't know, it just feels like a good end to my day, whatever.
Yeah.
Um and I know I don't want to have them in the middle of the day because I don't know.
Yeah.
Just it's not
Yeah.
me. And yeah, so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and whatever comes your and that's again trusting yourself and trusting whatever you believe in, like God, greater power, timing, karma, whatever it is, that it will all like show up on your doorstep in the most perfect timing of all.
Yeah. I think that's what like this comes back to is I talk a lot about like, oh, I don't have an alarm and I don't let people schedule meetings with me and all of these things. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but are you making money? And so, I mean, I think that I'm having slower growth than I might if I was hustling, but also at the other hand, I would burn out and not be growing. So
Mhm.
I think this is more effective. But also I just,
Yeah.
it comes to trusting that I can, I know this is a little buzzwordy, but like be my authentic self and honor like my
Oh,
energy.
that's really the bullshit bingo buzzer here. I must have like a physical buzzer where I can be like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, okay, so my business is Authentic Vision Media, so I reserve the right to use the word.
I know.
But
I
for
mean,
me, it
I mean
means,
authentic branding. I mean, I do the
yeah,
same
yeah.
shit. Like
For
I
me,
guilty
it's
as
like
charged.
being who I really am, not
Yeah.
pretending I want things that other people want or that they say I should
Yeah.
want, and not pretending I
Yeah.
feel one way when I feel another way. So that to me, like waking up really early when I don't want to, and for no really good reason, that's not authentic to me.
Yeah.
So now I forgot what I was saying because you called me out. That's
This
fair.
too is scenic route because you're like, oh look, a little bird, and then you're like, dee, 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 dee. But yeah, we're fine, we're all fine. Yeah, like I mean, I also could not tell you right now what we were talking about, but hey,
I
that's
think wait, it was about like trusting and growth and stuff.
no,
And
it was about trusted. You one have to trust yourself, and B you have to trust in whatever you believe in, God's spirituality, whatever, to kind of like deliver everything to you at the right time, which is not saying you're not doing anything, right?
right.
um and I also wanted to add, like you said, well, you're kind of like you're at peace with a potential slower growth than if you were to be to hustle. But that's the thing, I think that's built on the assumption and the premise that the more I hustle, the more successful I will be, because this is what capitalism tells us. The harder you work, the bigger your reward. And for 99.9 of all people, this is just not fucking true.
Yeah.
You're not more successful, or most likely you'll not be. So rather like not like work yourself to the ground, um and really focus on, hey, how can I mean, this is also like the shitty bingo buzzer, like work smarter, not harder, right? Like I
Yeah.
mean, it's like
Yeah. Because it's
but
still prioritizing work, which I'm like
yes,
saying that work
exactly.
is not that work is like bad or wrong, but it's like saying
No,
it's like
no.
noble. Like obviously everyone wants to work, right? Or like, can you believe that person? They don't want to work. And it's like, why are we putting that on such a pedestal? Like I want to center in my life, like experiencing joy and having the rest I need
Yes,
and connecting with people I love and doing things that light me up. And so yes, I will have slower growth in my business. Maybe in some ways I will have slower
maybe.
growth.
Yeah.
Um, but why was that the priority to grow my business? And it all comes back around to, it was capitalism, but
yeah, it always does. Late stage capitalism. It's amazing. It's awesome. It's fine. But yeah, no, but it's the same thing, right? Like we're getting this, like this work harder is kind of like dangled in front of us like a carrot, with the premise of, oh, there will be great riches if you work hard. And maybe that was true for boomer parents, but most of us, and definitely Gen Z, like they know it's just not fucking true, right? And saying so is just neglecting that so many people in all parts of the world hustle their body to death and not get anything for it.
Yeah.
Right. So as said, right, you never know, right? And also like the term slower growth, you're at the growth you're at, and you don't know if it could be faster or slower or whatever. It just, you don't know, right? Whatever. If you could hustle more, sure. But also I'm always thinking of, okay, if I that's also kind of like one thought of the scenic road is like, okay, I could take the highway to get to point B instead of taking the scenic route, but I would hate the entire drive there. The entire way of going to point B would be just a pain. So why would I bother?
Yeah.
And I mean, oh, this is now just occurring to me. I'm interested what you think of that, having a religious upbringing. Right? I mean, I grew up Roman Catholic, not a super religious household, but still. And it's more of a Protestant work ethic of the things like, oh, the harder I work, the greater like the greater the paradise will be, right? It's not like a monetary reward, but it's kind of like the reward of spirituality and or being a good Christian, or and getting entry to paradise, whatever. It's kind of like dangled in front of us. um what do you say? Like, is this something that is really deeply like ingrained too from like a religious point of view?
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of like I said about the like mind over matter stuff.
Yeah.
Like it was taught, in my upbringing, to deny yourself pleasure and good things. And that like, and just all of this brainwashing about like that good things are actually bad. And then it's
they corrupt your soul or whatever.
Yeah.
Or,
like, well,
okay.
some of this is about like the sex before marriage stuff that like teenagers are taught and stuff like that. Like that's bad. So it's like this thing that sounds pleasurable, it's actually bad. Just like, so you can't trust yourself.
So really purity culture at its best.
Yep. And then it also, like, this is not necessarily a religious thing, although definitely intertwined in that is like food. If it tastes good, it's bad, or you're being, like, oh, this is my guilty pleasure, I'm gonna like indulge in this chocolate or something. And it's all of this like not trusting yourself, and that things that you think are good you should feel bad about. So like if I want to sleep in, I should feel bad about that. It's like it permeates everything that like feels good, or that my body's asking for, or that I want, or I'm afraid to want. Like, actually, it's all like, according to my upbringing, like, actually, that's all bad for you. So if you want it, it's bad for you.
Yeah. No, but I love that you brought up food, because it's so true, right? Like we do it with all these little silly things of labeling things guilty foods or guilty pleasures or whatever, right? And you're like, no, actually, why are we denying ourselves the things that bring us joy? And part of that is a part of the answer is, at least like, I mean, I come from a sociological perspective, is that shame is such a great fucking mechanism of control, right? If you shame people into how they feel about their body, how they feel about their religion, how they feel about themselves, you have way more means of controlling them and selling them whatever kind of shit they don't need, right? Oh, you feel bad about your body. Okay, I told you that eating this guilty food is bad. So now you feel bad about eating the guilty food and you'll feel bad about your body. So, hey, now I can sell you something that will make you feel as bad about your body. So here's the latest diet. And it just on and on it goes, right? So, which, yeah, circling back to what you said before, what you touched upon too, right? There's nothing ever, um, right. You know, your body knows there will never be like an external source or anything that will tell you better ultimately what is right,
Yeah.
regardless of, I mean, sure, you can, it's valuable to take in consideration of people who have walked before you, of people who are expert in their fields, like, I don't know, going from copywriters to medical doctors. But at the end of the day, it's your lived experience, and you know, oh, ugh, this makes my skin crawl, or this is actually making me feel
Yeah.
good.
And this is another thing. This is another way that in my business that I like decenter money and try to be anti-capitalist is trusting that people do know what they need and what's best for them. And
Yeah.
of course, I bring my experience and expertise or whatever, but I'm still not here to tell them
Yeah.
what's best for them. And I think that when you realize that, it really changes the way you market. And honestly, like I have felt so much more at ease in any sales call, like quote unquote sales call,
Yeah.
because I'm not there to like convince them or
Yeah.
to touch on their pain points or to
Yeah.
what's the other term about like whatever like blocks that they have, like, oh, they don't have enough money and I can like combat everything that every issue that they have or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not here to convince them. I'm just here to
Yeah.
like, I know what I have to offer. I know what I like to do.
Yes.
I have my systems. Like, so, if they bring something to me, I can see if it fits in my,
Yeah.
like what I offer in my methodology and if it works for them and if it sounds like they're interested.
Yes.
And I don't have to like get a yes on the call or something like that, or like sign the paper on the call. I can be like, here's what I have.
Yeah.
Think it
Sleep about
over.
it. Like,
Yeah. See how it feels.
yeah, God. I mean, I had people who, I don't really do sales calls, but I remember I had someone being very like in touch in like DMs Instagram on Instagram and stuff. And I mean, she bought a year later just because that was the window that was good for her. And I'm like, yes. So at the start, yeah, you just also, yeah, you need to trust that everything you're doing is kind of like compounding and it will pay off. You never know how, because the how is ultimately not in your control at all. But you just kind of like gotta do, keep doing what you love.
That's such like a simple, I feel like this is so obvious, but something that I feel like I'm learning like deeply is like, I really can't make anyone do anything. I really can't make anything happen.
No.
I can do what I can do
No.
and I can try to move in the direction I want to move, but I can't
Yeah.
make anyone do anything and I can't make anything happen.
Yeah.
Which is like, comes back to like, is hustling going to really make my business grow faster? Like, I can't really make success happen. Like,
Yeah. I mean, yes, ultimately, like, yeah, you can use all the shady tricks in a dirty playbook, but God, it's not a trick that people have like never seen or heard of. And yes, we're still receptive to certain psychological triggers and things, but I mean, seriously, all those things just gotta go fucking go. Like, I'm like, no.
And I've had that too, where I've had people, like I had somebody sound like very excited and sound like a yes on the call. And then I sent him a proposal to like make the first payment and let's move forward. And they ghosted me. And then they like, we touched base again later. And then they were like, oh my goodness, like, they had a couple hangups around it or whatever, if you can call it that. But also they're like, then I got busy over the summer. And I was like, you know what? I didn't want to do this over the summer either. So are we ready now? Like, and we like rescoped the work and talked about whatever was misaligned. And then we started. And it was like, this timing was way better than if I had like forced it or like pushed for it or tried to get her to say yes or something, like, say what I wanted or try to make her to like want to pay the money that she didn't want to pay? Or what if I tried to cut my prices? Or what if I tried to offer her, like, all of these like manipulation things to make it fit, which again, if I wanted to make those choices, they are choices I can make.
If you want to discount your work because you want to make it more accessible, then fucking do it.
But like, you have reasons, right? And when like it feels like the right choice, and not this like buzzword again, scarcity mindset of like, if I don't do this, it's not going to work. Like, I don't want to do things from that motivation of like, oh, if I don't do this, it's not going to work. But instead being like, you know what, actually in this situation, I feel like it would make sense to, like, I have the boundaries in place, and then I get to choose if it's the right situation that I want to do something different. But if I didn't have those boundaries, then like, what would be happening?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it always boils down to boundaries and like setting them and enforcing them time and time and time again, because otherwise it's just okay. I loved how we touched on a lot of things, especially when someone thinking of starting out and giving this online business thing a shot. I loved how we cursed capitalism in every second sentence. Always here for that. So if anyone is like listening and starting out, where and want to like hear more of you, Leanne, where can they find you, where you're hanging out?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on Instagram. I think that's a great way to get into my world. My handle is authentic.vision.media. I also am hosting every month a graphic design clinic and this is for like people starting out DIYing their stuff, and we'll come in a very, very like chill, relaxed, supportive way. Like, we'll look at stuff and see how you can have more brand consistency and have more of yourself, which I know you're a fan of, Jennifer, like have more of yourself showing up in your branding and graphics and stuff like that.
I love the graphic clinic. I love this.
Thanks. Yeah. Actually, it's thegraphicdesignclinic.com. So
good on you for getting that URL. I love it.
Yeah.
And we're also going to link it in the show notes. You brought in a brand identity assessment. Do you want to briefly tell us something about it?
Yeah. So that is like a PDF you can download and get on my email list. And it kind of just takes you through this assessment to see like what are kind of some of the missing pieces in your like visual identity, as far as like the visuals for your marketing and the elements of branding and things like that. So you can just kind of walk through that and see what things you have and what things you might be missing. So you know where to go from there.
Perfect. So before I let you off the hook, I have 3 rapid fire questions. You ready?
Okay. Yep.
What's a dream or a goal you've always had, but you haven't pursued yet?
I can't think of anything. Oh my God. What came to mind, but I have done this a little bit, is I want to do like a van trip vacation, but I've done it a couple times and I just want to do it again and do it better.
And do it bigger.
Yeah, like a little longer and go to more places. Because I've done it for like a week. So nice. Yeah. I've done it for like a week and it's good. That I feel like I'm a baby step person. So like I tried it and now I can do it better.
Well, I mean, imagine you're booking like a 6 months van life trip and on day 3 you're realizing this is not the life.
Right. No, you want some experience to see like what things you couldn't have thought of. So I would like to do that for longer and cover more distance.
Yes, so I see. You're a test and trial person. I like it.
Yeah. So my rapid fire answer though is a road trip across the country, because I've never done that. Yeah. We had to get there though. We had to get there from the van trip thing.
But yes, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
I don't know. I feel like I'm not a big history person.
Well, I mean, it could be anybody, any kind of celebrity or actor or musician or writer, or I mean, you could invite baby Jesus. I mean, for all I care.
I think like, okay, saying baby Jesus kind of made me think like maybe like Mary in the Bible or something, and be like legit, what was up? Like, what really happened? Because no one actually took your perspective.
What something is missing? Like, give me the tea. Yes. Oh, I would love that. I would read that book, and I would also like play mouse at that thing.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. And if this one, maybe that it's coming. What book are you currently reading?
Oh, okay. I just started reading I think this is right. How to Do Nothing by Jenny Odell.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's right. There's a few books of like similar names and things,
but
things like that.
That's how hers called. Yeah.
Yeah. I just started reading that, so I'm very excited.
That sounds good. Okay, that's gonna, yeah. I mean, I know it's good. It's on the Scenic Route podcast reading book club list thingy already. So yes, enjoy. That's a good one.
Thanks.
Hey, Leanne, thank you so much for being on the Scenic Route with me. It was great to have you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was so great to chat with you.